Welcome to the third and last part of the face feature drawing, and today we're going to draw the part 3, the side view. I'm going to show you step by step how to do the face feature drawing, and at the end of this video I will show you a full tutorial where I drew a digital portrait. I also did a 3/4 view and the front view in another tutorial which I linked down below in the description. But first of all, we start with a simple shape in very light pressure. And for this whole demonstration I am using a pencil with a softness of 2B. So I start with a very light sketch and almost no pressure on the paper, and as I get further with the drawing and I feel comfortable, I just put more pressure onto the paper, so I add a little bit more contrast and dark lines into my drawing. For this stage of the drawing, I just use a simple line work, so I remind myself that I don't have to shade at this stage of the drawing. There is just a quote which I've heard before, and it really touched me when I listened to that, or better said, I've read it in a book, and the quote just says, "A structure is only as strong as its foundation." And I think this can be adapted to your drawings or to your art piece or something like that, which means you cannot shade or do a perfect shading when the construction line isn't good enough. So your drawing will always suck when your line work at the beginning of the drawing is incorrect. So please be sure to be concentrated and focused at the first stage of your drawing. No matter how long it takes, you don't have to be that quick as I do right here in the video. You just have to take your time and do the things that you do in a correct way. And as you see, the drawing gets further and further. I just add a little more pressure onto the paper, so I have a little bit more contrast into my drawing. I kind of like work in layers when I draw with pencils. I mean, you can't really work in layers when you draw, but I imagine that I'm doing a layer in a very light way and then get over the drawing with a little bit more pressure and do a second layer for the dark areas, or for the shadow areas, better said. I usually hold the pencil in a natural way, like in a vertical way when I draw, but when it comes to shading of a bigger area, I just switch the angle of the pencil a little bit more flat onto the paper, so I have way more control to shade a bigger area on the paper. Alright, let's dive in directly into the nose drawing. So we just start again with a simple shape, and I try to keep it a little bit edgy, so I don't want to be that rounded. I can round up edges after I feel comfortable with the whole construction. And as you see, I just redo the so-called outline of the drawing, so I just feel comfortable with the construction that I did, and now I'm putting the darker lines on the paper right now, and then I add a little bit of shading. The difference between drawing in front view or in side view is just huge. So I mean, both methods have their difficult and their tricky moments, but instead of keeping the lines symmetrical when you draw in front view, you have to focus more on the silhouette when you draw something in the side view. what I basically mean with that is you have less space to represent all the informations from the portrait in side view than you rather have it in the front view. So if you're using a reference photo when you draw, please be sure to observe the image correct and take your time to watch closely and see what is important to represent that what you see or what is too much of information. The next thing that we're gonna do together is the ear drawing. I just start the ear drawing with a line, like the line where the ear begins, you know, and I just don't draw a very straight vertical line. I just switch the angle of the line into a laid position, like a little bit on the sideways. That gives your ear a little bit more natural look and makes it more believable for the viewer. But this is not a fact or a straight rule which you can use in each and every drawing that you do. You just have to observe the image, especially when you just have a reference photo, and the position of the angle which the head is lean on depends on which is the angle of the ear. So for this position, I guess the ear or the face is just in a natural left side position. And once again, I'm just doing the line work. I don't want to shade and I don't want to represent big shadow areas. I just want to focus on my construction lines. As I did in the previous videos of this series, I just use no reference photo. I just draw from imagination and try to represent what I did 1,000 times before, and I try to get that back in my brain and reply it onto the paper. At this stage of the drawing, I just try to use a simple mid-tone shadow, just like with a little bit more pressure than I did from the first sketch, like the line work. And after that, I just try to put the most pressure on it and get all of the pencil darkness, which is the 2B pencil, as I said, and represent a little bit more contrast in it. This version of the ear drawing is much more fun than it is in the front view. So we have a lot of more space where we can draw or represent the ear than in the front view. Imagine when you draw a face or like the ear in front view, you just have a thin ear. So you don't have much space to represent what you see. It's better right here in the side view, so we have all of the space. We can represent the ear in all of its value. So last but not least, the lips. So we start with a simple shape, with a simple construction, as I always do. And for the lips, it's just the opposite of the previous ear drawing. Like in the side view of the ear, you have a lot of space to represent what you do. But when it comes to the lip drawing, you just have almost no space. Like you have to represent the contour of the lip, and you don't have the chance to represent or draw the lip at its width. So one thing that you have to keep in mind, or you try to remember when you draw lips is that the upper lip is a little bit more outstanding than the lower lip. Like, as you see on this drawing demonstration, the upper lip is a little bit more on the left side and the lower lip is a little bit more inside. So you can't really represent the lip just by itself. When you draw the lip in the side view, it's more important what is around this lip, like the chin and the nose up above. And it's always the same, like if you draw the lip, no matter which angle you draw it, like in the 3/4 view or in front view or in side view, just keep in mind that the upper lip is a little bit more dark than the lower lip. So let's see if we can adapt what we have learned in the previous minutes here. So this is basically a demonstration of a portrait drawing which I did on iPad, and I did use the Procreate app for this illustration. I hope you had fun watching this and maybe you've learned something or maybe not. I'm not a typical art teacher, but I try to give you a little bit information and insights to my drawing process. Yes, and if you want to help me, please share this video with your friends and your family, and hopefully we see us in the next video.